Alright, video number 2, because I was going to do another one. Yes, I know I'm in the same clothing. It's laundry day. It's Saturday. Okay, so this question, well actually, this topic has been a long time coming. I've released videos about this before, and I've never been really good at explaining things and explaining what I mean when I say the things that I say on this topic. Now, okay, I'm going to be talking about Wicca and witchcraft right now, and I want you to understand that not all Wiccans believe what I am going to say here, the opinion of me. It's not monolithic, and I think you're crazy to just listen to my opinion, but there's so many opinions on this that I don't hear the same opinion as me ever when I talk about this. But I'm sure there's a small minority of us out there who believe the things I'm about to talk about. I want to talk about people who say Wicca is a religion and witchcraft is a practice. You know what? To me, it's like you've taken away what I deem a beautiful religion, which is traditional British witchcraft, and said that I can't call it witchcraft because you don't want to be associated with a religion. And I get this all the time. You can be a witch and be Christian. You can be a witch and be a Buddhist. You can be a witch and be blah, 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 fill in the blank. And here's the thing, right? What is a witch? Right? Because you can't just say anyone can be a witch. It's like saying anyone can be a dolphin. It's not true. Do I believe out there, sorry, you're gonna have to excuse my crock pot is steaming away behind us. Do I think every person out there who calls themselves a witch is really a witch? Absolutely fucking not. And it's quite clear when we look at things like TikTok and YouTube and Instagram, when you see all these people who claim to be witches not know anything what they're fucking talking about. It's clear to see that some people who identify as a witch aren't really witches because they don't know their arm from their they don't know their ass from their elbow, and they don't know shit from clay. And it's quite disturbing that we're in this echo chamber where people can say, if you use crystals and you've made a wish on a birthday candle, that's magic, girl. Like, it's as though seeing magic in the most mundane way is like converting people to witchcraft, and it's weird for me. It's this weird echo chamber of saying you don't have to be religious to be a witch. It's just bullshit, and history would tell us that you're wrong. Like, back to the Wicca and witchcraft thing, is that I think it's worth saying Wicca was not a term coined by Gerald Gardner or anyone who was part of the Black Forest clan or anyone who was part of Gardner's lineage, right? Wicca was not a term that they used until maybe the early 80s. It was a name given to us to differentiate how our practices were different to people who practice other forms of magic. Now, it's okay to say that other forms of magic aren't witchcraft, because they aren't. When you say that witchcraft is a practice, that to me is the most insulting fucking thing to say to someone who practices witchcraft. Yes, it's a practice, but it's a way of living, it's a way of connecting, it's a way of how you talk to people. Everything is enveloped in your ideals and notions of witchcraft. So when you take the witch out of witchcraft and just call it a practice or a craft, you're isolating the problem. And the problem is people who come into witchcraft not wanting to learn basics and foundations, learn about history, religion, deities, and all these things that are part of our history, and then just say, I'm an atheist witch. And it's a slap in the face to our history. And I'm getting really sick of people saying to avoid, I've said this a million times before, and I'm going to keep saying it until the cows come home. I am really sick of people saying, if you want to learn witchcraft, stay away from books like Ray Buckland and Gerald Gardner and Scott Cunningham, blah, blah, blah. Because my friend who is a enter fucking folk magic name here, her mum's sister's best friend did this and blah blah blah. So you're telling me to not listen to these old guys, but listen to this old lady who probably mistranslated what her grandmother said 50 years ago. Like, you're telling me not to listen to some old fart to listen to another old fart. You don't make sense. And you're saying that if people say, well, witchcraft isn't a religion, be fucked. Because if you say witchcraft is just folk magic and practicing magic, that's not witchcraft. We have a word for people like that, and it's a magician. There is absolutely nothing wrong with being a magician. Crowley called himself that. People who were part of the spiritualist movement were okay with calling themselves that. But people who want to stick to a certain neo-pagan movement, such as witchcraft or Wicca, don't want to be associated with religion, want to stick to what we do as witches and call what they do witchcraft. Now, would I ever say, nah, what you're doing is not witchcraft? To your face? No. In my head? Yeah, I'm judging. I'm allowed to. That's what free will is. But you're not going to take witchcraft as a religion from me and slap some pretty pink glittery paint on it and call it a practice, because that's not okay. I don't practice witchcraft. My religion is witchcraft, right? And people say, well, you come into the craft, and stop calling it the craft. Stop calling it that. It's a stupid 1996 fucking name given to a movie which is really good. Unfortunately, the people who continued the sequel did a shit job and brought in political fucking identities and bullshit that just took away what witchcraft was to the film. You're trying to take witchcraft away from Wiccans and say what we're doing is not witchcraft, it's a religion. Well, they're doing religion over there. I'm sorry, were we not the first ones in the 50s to call it witchcraft, the old religion? No. Like, I don't understand people who come in here, right, and try to seem as an elder of our community and use monikers like aunt, sister, or reverend, and or some kind of higher up person in our community, try to say that they've been here a year and a day, when I can tell you, just from the way these people talk, it's fluffy bullshit nonsense that has no connection to what I've learned from witchcraft. People who use these monikers, such as aunt, sister, mama, or some other bullshit moniker that they've labeled themselves to make them seem older and wiser than what they are, is just beyond bullshit. It's an echo chamber. It's a way of getting self-gratification. You might as well jerk off to your own reflection in the mirror, because that's what I see you doing. You know, I don't name names, and if this person happens to see this video, cool. But I feel as though people who haven't been here and learnt history of witchcraft, learnt the history of Wicca, what the neo-pagan movement was throughout the 60s and 70s to, you know, the last person who was prosecuted under the Witchcraft Act in England, you know, someone who had white cheesecloth gauze coming out of her mouth, to understand the history of the words of witchcraft, Wicca, Witcher, and all these people saying, well, Wicca comes from this word in Anglo-Saxon times, blah, blah, blah. You're taking our religion away from us and slapping what you find convenient because you don't want to worship gods. And you want to pick and choose what you do in your craft and then turn around and call us culturally appropriative. That's bullshit. That's bullshit, and you fucking know it's bullshit. And it needs to stop. Because I can't be in a community where people will constantly point the finger at Wiccans and say, what you're doing is cultural appropriation and that's a closed practice. Bitch, my practice is closed and you don't get to call it what you want to call it. It's mine. It's private. The same type of people who will say, don't tell people you did this spell last night, or don't show people your altar, don't show people your book of shadows, while at the same time, 5 videos prior, showing everyone their beautiful design pages in their book of shadows, telling us this spell that they cast, blah, blah, blah. It's all clicks and hits, babe. That's all it is. It's a game of hits and clicks to make themselves look bigger and better than what they are. It's bullshit, and I think people my age and older than me need to be calling this shit out. We've got great Wiccan and witchcraft people in our online community who don't have nearly as much followers as these fucking young guns do. 155k followers this person has, compared to people like Sammy from Witch on the Rocks. Like, oh my god, you want to talk about cancel culture? Let's talk about the online YouTube history of Witch on the Rocks. Okay, she had her credit card details stolen. She had her home broken into. Her husband, she wasn't allowed to join a certain form of Wicca because her husband was a cop. Like, we're talking about actual fucking history here, and you're talking about my feelings and my practice, blah, 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 blah. I'm talking about us as a collective. You make us look bad. And that's all I've got to say on the shit. Because I can't sit in this fucking echo chamber of teenage girls and women in their early 20s, right? Take a metaphorical dildo and fuck themselves in front of a mirror and get off on it. Because it literally is the most self-serving bullshit I've ever seen. I always get into these rants, don't I? I always go, I don't want to be ranty today, guys. Bullshit. Oh, God. Right. You know what I'm saying? And people can block me. They can say what they like and do what they like. I don't care. I've said it, and now I'm going to sleep better knowing that I've said it. Blessed be everyone. Peace, love, and applesauce, and I will see you all later. Bye.